family struggle. But I was on the de-escalation team. And as this gentleman got up and started talking about his single issue choice for voting and why it was more important than everything else, I asked him, I said, could you explain to me why is that the most important issue? Why is it more important than all of these others? He said, well, it's not. I said, okay, so what does that mean? He said, I don't know, I need to think about it. Then I don't know what he thought about, but he said, I don't want to have a debate, and then he proceeded to try and have a debate. I said, well, I don't want to have a debate either. I just want to know why that one is more important than all these others. And when we left, I had successfully placed my body in between him and other people and helped usher him out the door because I have a background both in herding cattle and in playing basketball, and I'm very good at putting my body in between people. And I find myself asking, as we all did once we got on the bus and we were processing, did it make a difference? Did this make a difference? Are we making a difference doing what we're doing? I think about the story of Hiawatha and the bearing of the hatchet and the Iroquois Confederacy, one of the oldest functioning democracies in world history, continuously functioning. And I look at our nation and the genocide and displacement of indigenous peoples, and I wondered, did it make a difference? Did I make a difference? And rather than getting into a debate and furthering the cycle of violence, I wondered, what might we do? What might we do to bury the hatchet? Because that was the ask of the nuns on the bus, folks. For us to bury the hatchet over this single-issue voter business and come together to deal with all this other stuff. To get over the stumbling block that is keeping us from being like the women of 77, from coming together across so many different places and fighting against the forces that seek to divide and exclude. I think notably, Shay, correct me if I'm wrong, but in 77, one of the attempted divisions was about lesbian women and to try and divide the union of those folks by introducing that single issue, by introducing that tomahawk. And those women were able to get over it, to bury the hatchet around that, to come together, to pass their resolutions, to stand together. So I wonder, how do we do that? How do we do that as a nation? How do we do that as a state? How do we do that as a congregation? When we called in our ancestors today, I recognize that's not a practice that everyone is involved in, but I hope you can understand how powerful that is to be reminded when we feel perhaps hopeless, frantic, or worried, or tense. There's a long line of people who have felt all of those things too, and yet continued to do the work. Continued to seek to be together, to build new partnerships against the very real forces and systems that prompted the man in the basement of Scranton, Pennsylvania, to stand up and try to disavow everything that his Catholic siblings had said, including quotes by Pope Francis. When we speak truth to power, power pushes back. It's the basic organizing principle. And when you seek to make a difference, that feeling of powerlessness is what they, whoever they is, want you to feel. We ended our bus tour in Harrisburg on the corner of State Street and whatever the other one is in front of the Capitol. At the corner of a building that houses the Commonwealth Foundation. Commonwealth Foundation is a conservative kind of think tank that is very well funded, does a lot of lobbying in Harrisburg, and is the direct reason for lots of the bad things that we have in this state. We stood on the corner, and preachers of all kinds got up and spoke prophetically, called on ancestors, called for people to be engaged, called for a multiracial, multi-faith, multi-ethnic, queer, and straight alliance of all these people. And I thought, are we making a difference? Are we making a difference? We've got Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Muslim, atheist, agnostic, all gathered together here on this corner. Pretty good crowd of people. Are we making a difference? As Bishop Dwayne Royster was closing us out, he looks to his right, to around the corner of the Commonwealth Foundation. The president of the Commonwealth Foundation was standing there listening. And when he realized he had been made, he turned tail and ran back into the building. He did not want us to know he was there, but he felt scared enough to come and listen and hear what was being said and to assess whether we were making a difference or not. I think about how that action multiplied and expanded across the state, across time, how that's planting the seed that will hopefully grow into something. Will it swing the election one way or another? I don't know. Will it bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice? I don't know. Will it help build a beloved multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational community where everyone has what they need in my lifetime? I don't know. But when I hear the names of the people we have called on, the people we remember, the people who put their trust in me enough to teach me, the people who put their love in us enough to love us, that gives me hope. That gives me hope. But only if we find a way to bury our hatchets with one another, perhaps with me, with whatever is bigger than us, whatever is keeping us from fully engaging and helping do the work to dismantle all those other things. Sometimes we get hung up on the one thing, and that keeps us from fully engaging in the other stuff. I hope we can hear the stories to break that cycle of constantly coming back to that one fight, constantly coming back to that one issue. And instead try to make a difference where we are. So what I'm going to invite us to do, maybe today, maybe going forward, whether or not the election goes the way you want it to, is there anyone here that you need to bury the hatchet with? Is there an issue that you need to bury the hatchet with? Is there some kind of forgiveness that you need to give yourself or others to get through so that we can together face the forces that are trying to separate and divide us, that try and break our coalitions? Because what I found out on the bus tour in Pennsylvania is that there are lots of progressive people all across the state who are feeling the same way as we are. And if we can find a way to all come together, we really can make a difference. And I was so inspired by a poster in Washington, Pennsylvania, at a little progressive group called the Center for Coalfield Justice. Folks out there with all of the cards stacked against them, continuing to reach out, to connect to people, to do what they can. And they have a guiding principle poster. It says, listen to the elders, follow the youth, dismantle systems, protect the land. It is the most powerful thing I saw. So as we follow that advice, as we remember those who came before us, as we remember that community of trust is what makes all of the difference-making we want to do possible. That is only possible if we trust one another. And trust is only possible if we talk to one another in a vulnerable way, if we bury the hatchet with one another. And all of that makes it possible for us to be together like the women of 77 and to do our part to make the world a better place. So I'm begging you today, friends, in the midst of doing all you're doing about election work, in the midst of all you're doing in your personal lives, to just hold it together with all of this. If there is something that you need to bury the hatchet on, please engage with them. Don't be like my friend in the basement of the church in Scranton who could not engage with his vulnerability, with his story, with his pain, to talk about why he was so scared. We are in desperate need of one another. As my great spiritual text, Star Wars, constantly reminds us, you are our only hope. We are our only hope. When we say we are interconnected and interdependent, I really mean it. And I'm going to quote Pat DeBrady, one of my teachers, who is quoting Paul Robeson. He says, we are each other's purchase. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's magnitude and bond. We are never, never alone. We are deeply connected. We will need that connection going forward. May we be so.